Hello guys. So, having recently upgraded to playing on 120 frames per second from playing at 60 frames per second on my PlayStation 5, in today's video I wanted to discuss three main areas for anyone who is considering an upgrade in hardware to experience what the PlayStation 5 is truly capable of. I'm going to be splitting the video into three main parts, with the first explaining what FPS is for those of you not as tech savvy, secondly why it's important in gaming, and finally how to actually get or unlock 120 frames per second on the PlayStation 5. I'll also be giving you at the end my thoughts and opinions as to whether it's worth upgrading your hardware to unlock those extra frames, as let's be honest, if you do want to upgrade your FPS to 120, there is definitely going to be a cost to it. So I'm hoping with my hands-on experience using it over the past month or so, it will help anyone currently who is in two minds whether to pay the extra money to get a new TV or a new monitor. So without any further ado, let's get into it. What is FPS then? As mentioned in the intro, it's frames per second that are delivered to your TV or monitor from your console or PC. If you do have a console or PC capable of outputting 120 frames per second, you will need a monitor or TV that has at least a 120Hz refresh rate. If the Hertz and FPS capability don't match, then this could mean you are not going to be able to benefit or play on 120 frames per second on the PS5. For example, most normal monitors and TVs out there currently on the market operate at a maximum refresh rate of around 60Hz. For the most part, this has always been fine for console gaming because the old gen hardware, such as on the PlayStation 4, were only ever capable of outputting up to 60 frames per second. But now, if you wanted to play Warzone on 120 frames per second, and my old TV or monitor is only capable of a refresh rate of 60Hz, I would only be able to play on 60 frames per second as a maximum. That's despite the PS5 being able to actually output 120 frames per second. And that's literally just because there is a mismatch between the refresh rate on the monitor and obviously what the PS5 is capable of outputting. Now for PC gamers, because of the hardware available on a good PC build, in games like Warzone it's not uncommon for the guys on PC to see upwards of 150 to 200 frames per second. For this reason, most PC gamers will look to purchase a monitor with a high refresh rate, with some of the best on the market offering around 240Hz and beyond, and that enables them to run those higher frame rates on those games. If you followed what I was saying in the previous section, I'm hoping this kind of makes sense before I even start going through this, but the more frames every second you can squeeze into your monitor or TV, the smoother and more responsive the gameplay will actually feel. If you think of a picture flick book with a 20-page animation and flick through it, sure, the animation might come across okay and you'll see everything you need to, but then try doubling the amount of pages to 40 and then think how much more detail you'll see of that animation and how smooth it will be. This is the exact same concept when gaming, particularly in fast-paced games like Warzone. Those extra few frames could mean you spot something you previously might not have on the lower frame rate. So for serious hardcore gamers, this is why you may have heard the expression frames win games. To some extent this is true, and there will be situations where those extra frames could be the difference between you winning or losing a gunfight, but for the most part however, it's more about enhancing your gaming experience through the smoother gameplay, making you feel more immersed into the game, and if those extra frames do help you come out on top with someone not running the higher frame rate, then that's a big W. Alright, so we've looked at what FPS is and why it's important in gaming. Now we're going to take a look at how to actually get 120 frames per second on the PlayStation 5. This is where the money also does the talking. So you actually have two options currently. The first would be to seek a PC gaming monitor that has a 120Hz refresh rate as a minimum or higher. Usually the closest on the market that you can buy at the moment around that refresh rate is 144. The second option will be to purchase a TV that supports the higher refresh rates, although there are not many on the market currently available that do support 120Hz as a refresh rate. It's likely now however that next gen consoles are here that manufacturers will start introducing 120Hz refresh rates as standard, but this could be a few years down the line when more people have the next gen console sitting at home. For now though, if you really look, there are some TVs available but at a slightly higher price. Depending on what resolution you're also looking at playing in, there are some things you need to be aware of depending on what HDMI technology the monitor or TV has. For example, if you wanted to play at 4K at 120 frames per second, you will need a TV or monitor that supports HDMI 2.1. If you want to play at 1440p, then you must have HDMI 2.0 as a minimum, but if you're looking at sticking at good old 1080p or high definition as it's also known, then HDMI 1.4 is totally fine. I would recommend looking into the HDMI technology before making a purchase to ensure it fits your requirements, not just now but also in the future. So, is it really worth upgrading your current hardware to get get 120 frames per second. In short, my recommendation is absolutely. Since playing on 120 frames per second, the difference you can notice is literally night and day in a game like Warzone. I've never felt so connected to the gameplay. It has hands down made the experience so much better. I feel as though my reactions are quicker and it just feels so smooth. It's almost really difficult to go back to some of my older PS4 games that still run at 60 frames per second, as there is a huge noticeable difference in smoothness and responsiveness. However, not every next-gen game has launched yet, so the need to upgrade your TV or monitor may not be as urgent currently. But with games like Battlefield 2042 around the corner and others coming later this year, I think it's definitely time that you do start considering getting something that will enable you to output the PS5 maximum frame rate of 120. It's one of those things that if you've never experienced it, it won't really matter, but once you have actually played on a 120 frames per second, you will literally never want to go back. I hope you found this video useful, and if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. Let me know as well, are you considering purchasing a new monitor or TV so you can get 120 frames per second currently? And has this video now persuaded you to get one? If you did enjoy the video, please drop me a like, subscribe for more, and I shall hopefully see you in the next one. Peace!